If you have diastasis and you've done any amount of research online about the condition, the first thing you will probably have come across are things like this. Lists and movements of exercises to avoid. So things like double leg raises, rotation exercises, back extension, crunches. Now these lists are supposed to be there to help you in your recovery, but do they really do that? In this video, we're going to be talking about the idea of diastasis safe and unsafe exercises and if they actually work in your favor or hold you back from improving. Hi, I'm Manera Houdani, a perinatal physiotherapist and diastasis educator. After nearly a decade of working with women with diastasis and teaching and educating professionals around the world through courses and conferences, it has become my mission to remove the fear associated with having diastasis and to help people understand it better. When it comes to diastasis and fear, there is a lot of it. And one of the reasons why there's so much fear around this condition is because of lists like this. Movements and exercises that must be avoided if you have diastasis. If you search for diastasis online, something like this will show up at the top of the page. So it's only natural to believe that if you do any exercise on that list that you're going to make your diastasis worse. But do they really do that? So before we get into that, let's take a minute to talk about why these lists were created to begin with. So the purpose behind them wasn't exactly to make you afraid, but to educate you and to allow you to be aware of things that could potentially put strain on your linea alba, either through using the muscles around it or through doing exercises that raise intra-abdominal pressure, which could potentially stress the linea alba. And so by avoiding them, we give the linea alba some time and space that it needs to heal. Another thing that these lists did was they helped people feel more clear around the things they could do. And so they sort of created parameters around the exercises, and this gave people a sense of direction, a path to follow. And the great thing about that is that it gives you clarity, and that makes it easier for you to take action towards your goals. So initially, having this kind of information is actually quite empowering. In addition to knowing that an exercise is safe, also think about how that makes you feel. It makes you feel safe in the process, that not only am I doing something good for me, but I'm being protected from any issues that could arise. So they sort of create a kind of safety bubble for your core. But again, do they really protect you? Well, as it turns out, there is a downside to having these kinds of so-called safe exercise lists. First of all, once you've been told an exercise is safe and another exercise isn't safe, well, you might feel protected doing the safe exercises, but automatically that will create a level of fear inside of you that will stop you from exploring exercises and movements that aren't labeled as safe. And they might be good for your core as well. And that fear is really hard to overcome once it sets in. And once you have a fear of doing something that is labeled unsafe, you can become trapped in a box where you're limited to a few gentle exercises, even when we know the body likes variety and thrives on variety. Secondly, only engaging in exercises that are labeled as diastasis safe can actually limit or slow down your progress because you're really only participating in some very gentle exercises which really don't meet the demand requirements to actually create physical changes within the muscles and tissues, which is needed to build strength and to make progress. What's more, having a list of exercises that are safe and separate ones that are labeled as unsafe then sets some exercises up for being the villain and some to be the hero, when in actuality, it's not usually the exercise that leads people to experience setbacks and symptoms. It's usually how the exercise is being done. You could have a supposedly safe exercise being done in a manner that really isn't that safe. So it's more about the technique. And what that means is that there really aren't any inherently good or bad exercises for the core and for diastasis, and all exercises could potentially help you, so long as you're not experiencing pain, significant uncontrolled doming, or pelvic or vaginal pressure. These are signs that would indicate that you should scale back or you should modify things. Now, if you want to know more about how to tell if your body is handling an exercise well, or if you should modify or scale back an exercise, you can check out my free guide on the things to look out for when doing core exercises, and this will let you know if the exercise is appropriate for you and where you're at in your journey. The link for that is in the description below. Now, continuing further with this discussion, this fear of movement that is specific to exercises can also get carried over into your daily life. So you're not only now afraid to do exercises, but you're also moving around in your day. And you may not see this happening right away, but over a period of time, you might start to feel worry and fear around all the things in your life that you have to do as a mom, like lifting your kids and carrying groceries and reaching into the back seat to pick up that toy your kid just dropped on the ground. around. So not only are you cautious with exercise, but you're cautious and protective even when you're not exercising. Another difficulty we run into with diastasis safe lists is that they make you feel like these are the exercises you need to do and should do until you are better. And that implies these are the exercises to do to get better. The problem with that is that you get stuck doing the same gentle exercises or different variations of those exercises for a very long time. And a lot of people come to realize, okay, nothing really is changing here, or I see some changes, but they're not seeming to last. So this is where and why people often reach a plateau. And consider this, having a set of rules for everyone with diastasis clumps everyone with the condition, all levels of diastasis, no matter how wide, how far along postpartum you are, when you discovered you had diastasis. It takes everybody and clumps them into one group and tells them all that you're not allowed to do these specific exercises. And that's basically like telling all people with an ankle sprain, and it doesn't matter what grade, doesn't matter when you had it, when you discovered it, it doesn't matter if you've done anything for your ankle sprain, that everyone with an ankle sprain should not be walking. Do you see how we can run into issues with such generalized blanket statements? Those rules may have been appropriate for some people at a certain point after having the ankle sprain, but they were never intended to be lifelong sentences. But this is how it can feel for many people who have diastasis. So when it comes to exercise, in order to use it as a means to facilitate change in muscles and connective tissues, they need to be progressed and challenging. Just like a weightlifter constantly adds weight every time the exercise begins to feel easy, the same is true for your core and your core exercises. They need to be progressed and become challenging. They need to involve more than just doing bridges and heel slides, because the body won't adapt just by keeping the exercises at the same level. So you might be wondering, okay, Manera, I get that it's probably time to unfollow those lists, but I still can't understand why I was given this list of things that I shouldn't be doing in the first place. Well, it's because we previously used to believe that the linea alba needed to be protected so that it could heal, but that paradigm is actually passing, and the world of diastasis is evolving into one that follows principles of exercise physiology, such as the principle of specificity, the principle of progressive overload. So exercise is now used as a means to create change in the core, a means to facilitate changes in the abdominal muscles and connective tissue, including the linea alba. We now understand that by progressively building up strength in the core, we actually make the linea alba more resilient. So the goals have shifted towards building a strong and resilient core, and exercise programs for the core are no longer being labeled as diastasis safe and diastasis unsafe, but diastasis aware. So yes, it can be very confusing when you go online and research diastasis because there is a lot of conflicting information online, but I hope this helps you to understand that it's only because things are evolving in the world of diastasis, and it's evolving pretty quickly, and the online space is reflecting that. In summary, if you have diastasis, one of the best things you can do is strengthen your core. If you have been strengthening your core, progress your exercises, do more. But if you're afraid and you want someone to show you how, so that you don't waste any more time trying to figure it out on your own, come join the In-Core program that I've designed specifically for moms with diastasis, where I take your hand and I lead you step by step through the core strengthening process. People who join the program continue to say how much of an impact it's made on their core, how much they've learned through the process, and how they now understand why what they were doing before wasn't working. And if you're a professional and are intrigued by diastasis and want to dive deeper, now is your chance to hop on the wagon and join the hundreds and hundreds of professionals from around the world who have taken my full online course called Diastasis Rectus Abdominis and the Postpartum Core. If you want to learn why you're seeing what you're seeing with your clients, if you want examples of exercises that are already laid out for you so you don't have to guess, if you want to understand how to influence the muscles and the fascia of the abdomen, if you want to understand how to close the gap and how that actually happens, this is the course for you. It's an eye-opening and game-changing course, and I would love to have you there. The link to both are in the description below. See you next time.